She began doing things that Kobe didn't understand. This new game was totally unlike the ones he played with his friends at school. Kobe was only 10 years old and in primary school. He loved playing soccer and reading storybooks. However, most days he returned to an empty house because his parents were always working. Mr. and Mrs. Omari ran a large shop in the local market. They worked hard daily to earn money and give Kobe a good life. The school bus dropped Kobe off at home around 3 o'clock in the afternoon every day, and he would be alone at home until 6 in the evening when his mother got back from the market. "I'm so bored staying here by myself," he complained one evening. "We're sorry, Kobe, it's just for 3 hours," his mother said. "We have to work hard to pay for your school fees and other needs." Kobe understood, but he still wished sometimes that they had more time for him. One day, Mrs. Omari had an idea. "Kobe," she said, "why don't we ask Auntie Mira, our neighbor who lives next door, to look after you until we come home?" Auntie Mira was their neighbor, a woman in her late 20s who lived alone. She was a spinster, meaning she was single. She was always cheerful and kind, so Kobe's parents trusted her. "Okay, Mom," Kobe agreed. He knew Auntie Mira well. She was very nice and often gave him small treats. And with his approval, Kobe started staying at Auntie Mira's house whenever he came back from school. Auntie Mira's home was small but neat. She always greeted Kobe with a plate of food and a warm smile. "Kobe, come and eat. How was school today?" she would often ask. At first, Kobe felt a bit shy. But as time went on, thanks to her jovial personality and sweet stories, he became comfortable. Auntie Mira was exceptionally kind. She would buy cartoons and other fun children's movies for Kobe to watch on her small television. Eventually, she bought for Kobe a Game Boy video game which he loved so much. "Kobe, this is for you," Auntie Miracle said softly, with a warm smile on her face as she handed him the toy for the first time. Kobe was reluctant and shy to collect it at first, but she insisted, stating that, "Kobe, you are the junior brother I never had. I will get anything you want." Kobe thanked her with a heart full of gratitude as he collected the Game Boy. However, from that day, things changed. It all started one Tuesday afternoon after Kobe had returned back from school. While he was with Auntie Mira, she suggested to teach him a new game. "This game is just for both of us, Kobe. Nobody else is allowed to play or know about it," she said softly, almost in a whisper. But Kobe did not understand the game at all. Auntie Mira made him see things and do things way beyond his time. She guided his hand to explore her body, which greatly confused Kobe. Even more confusing for Kobe was the sounds Auntie Mira made and her expressions as she played the supposed game. Midway, he interrupted by saying, "Auntie, I don't like this game." A worrisome and traumatized expression masked over his face. "Don't worry, Kobe. With time you will come to enjoy this game," Auntie Mira assured him. Little by little, this little secret game became a daily routine, one that Kobe despised so much. He was young, tender, and too naive, and he never really understood the look of excitement or pleasure Auntie Mira had whenever they played this supposed game. Over time, Kobe started dreading going to Auntie Mira's house. He will wait long hours in school after the closing bell before returning home. On days like Friday, when the school closes earlier than usual, he will drag his feet slowly on the road in a bid to come back home late. One day, after having yet another game session with Auntie Mira, Kobe felt an urgent need to tell his parents, but he was scared. He couldn't explain why he was scared or felt reluctant to tell them, but he just had the feeling. Eventually that evening, Kobe walked up to his mother in the kitchen. "Mummy, I want to tell you something," he started, with a slow tone, almost in a whisper. "What is it, Kobe?" Mrs. Omari asked, impatience plastered all over her reply as she turned her head swiftly from the kitchen sink. "Mummy, it's about Auntie Mira." Before he could continue, Mrs. Omari cut into his speech midway. "Kobe, Kobe, how many times did I call your name?" she asked with annoyance on her face. "Kobe, your dad and I work hard and tirelessly to give you the best life we can afford. I know we are not always there for you, but Auntie Mira is helping us fill that void for now. Don't worry, you will get to like her and you both will become friends, Mrs. Omari stated as she patted her son on his head. But Mummy... No buts, Kobe, Mrs. Omari cut in. Now return back to your room and do your assignment and don't talk about this issue again. Yes, Mummy, Kobe replied in sadness as he turned and headed out of the kitchen. That night, as Kobe sat in his room, he cried silently because nobody wanted to listen to him. He didn't understand what Auntie Mira was doing to him, and now even his own parents did not have the time for him. But little did he know that his troubles were only getting started. The very next morning when Kobe woke up from sleep, he realized that he had urinated on the bed. Kobe was shocked and tense at the same time. He had stopped bedwetting since he was a toddler, and besides, he did not drink excess water the previous night to warrant such. Could this be as a result of the game Auntie Mira plays with me? Kobe thought as he reminisced. Worse still, he could not tell his parents lest his mother will beat him. She was a strict disciplinarian. Anyways, Kobe managed to hide the mattress and change his clothes before anyone else would notice. But this issue of bedwetting persisted and continued for days. His parents were too busy to notice, but Kobe knew that something was wrong. One day after returning from school, Kobe headed straight to Auntie Mira's house as usual. Auntie Mira was glad to see him and greeted him with a plate of rice and juice. After a while, when Auntie Mira came to play her game of touching with Kobe, he quickly cut in saying, "Auntie, I don't like your game. It's making me urinate on my bed every day. I don't think I am feeling good." Auntie Mira's expression changed immediately. For a minute, she looked like she was deep in thought, trying to understand what she just heard. Then suddenly, she put on a light smile, moved close to Kobe reassuringly and said, "Don't worry, Kobe, you will be completely fine. It is very normal for boys your age to bedwet. You will get over it." But this did not comfort Kobe at all. He could not explain everything that was happening. Since he started this new game with Auntie Mira, he always felt unusually very anxious the moment he stepped into her house. His heart beat faster than usual and he could feel the beat from his chest. He just so dearly wished that his parents would start coming back from work early so that he would stop experiencing all these. Soon enough, this started affecting his attention in school. Kobe, who was one of the brilliant pupils in class, could no longer concentrate on schoolwork. He no longer enjoyed playing like before. While his friends played in the school field during break time, Kobe would just sit at a corner lost in thoughts, images of Auntie Mira's body flashing all over his mind. His class teacher soon took notice of this newly found behavior from Kobe. Mrs. Nkichi was a loving and easy-to-relate teacher. All the students and pupils loved her for her playfulness and her kindness. But one special skill Mrs. Nkichi had was her gift of observation. Mrs. Nkichi could easily tell when a student was feeling bad or just had a mood swing. This singular trait of hers made her easily associate with the pupils. Mrs. Nkichi had been observing Kobe for a while and knew very well that something was wrong. He used to be a fun, loving and lively boy. Now he was mostly absent-minded and gloomy. After teaching in class one day, she asked Kobe to wait behind and see her at her desk. "Kobe, is anything the matter? You look lost these few days." Kobe stood in front of her desk with his head bowed in shame. He was contemplating whether to tell Mrs. Nkichi or not. He was trying to speak, but the words felt too heavy for him to open up. "No, Ma, everything is fine," Kobe lied after some awkward moments of silence. "Kobe," Mrs. Nkichi started, "if you are facing any personal challenges, feel free to share with me. I am your teacher. I am here to help you both educationally and otherwise." Eventually, she dismissed Kobe, but Auntie Nkichi was not convinced. She had in fact confirmed that Kobe was hiding something too big. He was scared to opening up. That day, as Kobe went back home, he prayed that his parents had returned so he wouldn't have to go to Auntie Mira's house. But alas, everything was just the same. He stayed at Auntie Mira's house, and as usual, she played her game. But something very strange happened this time around. While playing her game, Kobe noticed that his genital organ became stiff and stood erect. This sent fear down his spine, and he swore to open up to Auntie Nkechi the next day. The next day in school after a lesson, he walked straight to Auntie Nkechi's desk, and with heads bowed to the floor in embarrassment, he began, "Auntie, I have something to tell you." Auntie Nkechi leaned closer to pay more attention as she wore a very serious and assuring look. Kobe looked back and forth, left and right, just to ensure that nobody was eavesdropping or within a range that could hear what he was about to say. Then he leaned in closer to Mrs. Nkechi and whispered to her ears, "It's Auntie Mira, our neighbor at home. She does things to me and makes me do things I can't explain." Auntie Nkechi was shocked. She paid vast attention as Kobe narrated his experience. "Kobe, you have done well." Auntie Nkechi started with a look of hope. "You don't have to feel bad, my boy. Nobody deserves to go through what you have been through in the hands of Auntie Mira. Don't worry, I will do everything in my power to help you." For the first time in weeks, Kobe felt happy that someone had actually listened to him and was willing to help. On the other hand, he was scared because he didn't know what Auntie Mira's reaction would be when she found out. Auntie Nkechi quickly had a meeting with the headmistress and some of the school board, and they all agreed that indeed the matter was serious and needed to be treated urgently. The school authority summoned Mr. and Mrs. Omari to the school the very next day so as to discuss the new development from Kobe. "Did Kobe get into trouble?" Mrs. Omi asked anxiously as she sat in the headmistress's office looking very impatient. "No, Ma, please have your seat. What we are about to discuss is even far worse," the headmistress stated as she ushered them into her office. "Mr. and Mrs. Kobe, your son has revealed to us some sad incident about your neighbor, Auntie Mira. Kobe said that Auntie Mira touches him every day. Are you aware of this?" "What?" Mr. Omari thundered. He clenched his fist and stood up almost immediately from his seat. Mrs. Omari was shocked to the bone marrow. Mrs. Nkechi, who was also present, narrated the whole ordeal to them, just as she had been told by Kobe. After much deliberation and begging, Mr. Omari finally agreed not to take matters into his own hands, but to involve the necessary agencies involved in such crimes. That day, as school closed, Mrs. Omari came to the school herself to pick up Kobe and take him back home. "Kobe, I am very sorry for not paying attention to you when you wanted to share your struggles with me. I was carried away with work, failing to pay attention to my own flesh and blood. Don't worry, your dad and I have things sorted out. You will feel confident again," she added as a tear crawled down her face. That evening, Auntie Mira received a heavy knock on her door. When she went to check who it was, she was met by the mean faces of 3 policemen dressed in black and holding guns. They were police officers. Mr. Omari had returned with some police escorts accompanied by Mrs. Nkechi and the school head mistress. "Miss Mira, you are under arrest for child molestation," one of the officers stated. "You must be mistaken. You are in the wrong house," Auntie Mira defended as she stood frozen in both fear, confusion and shock. "It is best you remain silent, or anything you say or do will be used against you in the court of law." The same policeman with handcuffs interrupted as arrested Auntie Mira and cuffed her hands. Meanwhile, Kobe was too scared to go outside. He stayed back in his room and watched the entire event unfold from the window in his room. He heaved a huge sigh of relief as he watched Auntie Mira being put in the police van and led out of the compound. From that day henceforth, Kobe's parents started paying more attention to him. They took turns to come pick him from school daily and stay with him at home. At school, Auntie Nkechi kept a close eye on him and assured both him and other students to speak up whenever they were in trouble or needed help from adults. But the bedwetting did not stop yet. The therapist Kobe had been visiting had assured his parents that he would eventually get over it as time went on, and he healed from the trauma slowly. Hi guys, thanks for watching this story. Want a massive shout out in our next upload. Kindly comment on a lesson you learnt from the story and the country you are watching us from. big thanks to you all.